Okay, well, I'm Donald Morrison. I'm Head of Asset Management and Standards with Transport Scotland. I've been working for probably since about the mid-90s in a number of roles, all connected with management and maintenance of the trunk road network in Scotland. So I've come from a background where we were still outsourcing all our work mid-90s to local authorities, so it was all public sector delivery for trunk roads at that time. But more recently we've gone through various iterations of contracts which we've put out to tender. We're now in our third generation of trunk road operating company contracts which are delivered by the private sector. And in that respect I've got responsibility for strategic asset management, trunk and local road policy and technical standards as well. Well, I think the theme of the conference is making change happen. So it's obviously a very topical theme so far as the conference is concerned. And from that point of view, I think there's a lot about to happen in terms of change in the sector. I agreed to get involved in speaking at the event because I was keen to put across the Scottish perspective, some of the things that have been happening in Scotland most recently and where we're going in terms of change looking forward. It's clear from a lot of the activity in terms of the Highways Maintenance Efficiency Programme and the National Road Maintenance Review in Scotland that there's potential for change of policy in some ways. I don't necessarily mean policy with a large P, but operational policy and technical policy as well. There's some potential for change there. So I think in terms of all client organisations, it's important to get that across, and from that point of view, so far as the supply chain is concerned, it's important that they hear about that as well. So I think that's, the conference is very relevant in that respect, given the opportunity to get those messages across. The presentation is going to give an update on where we are. We've reached a key point, having published the final report from the review and setting up governance arrangements for delivering various options which have come out of that review. So I'm going to cover as much as I can of that. The other thing that's relevant to us at the moment is the award of our next generation of trunk road operating company contracts. Depending on how things work out with whether contracts have been awarded or not, I'll hopefully be able to say a bit about that as well. For people working in the highways maintenance sector, it's certainly a conference which I would encourage delegates to attend because of some of the messages that hopefully will come out of it. One of the things that we recognised in Scotland when we were undertaking the roads review was that there's always been talk for quite some time about how we could be more efficient, how we could share services and collaborate better as client organisations and collaborate better with the supply chain as well. We've been talking about it for a while, and I think one of the things, using the roads review as an example, it's been important to ensure that there's political buy-in, because you can talk about it for a long time, but if you don't actually have the political buy-in and that driver from the top down as well as the bottom up, then the chances of success aren't as strong. There was a lot of good ideas coming out in terms of how to implement change, but there was always the concern that we could produce a report which had all these good ideas, but how could we help to deliver that? So we identified that the best way to do that would be to set up a central resource. So that was one of the key findings from the roads review. So roads authorities who are wishing to explore the sharing of services, collaboration, any of the other options which have come out of the roads review can tap into that central resource to help them prepare business cases, for example, for their elected members, to tap into good practice that's identified elsewhere. So I think setting up a central resource will provide quite a good catalyst to help support organisations that are looking to go through a change programme. The one thing that's always difficult to manage or a challenge to manage is customer expectations, and I think we have publicised the outcome of our review in Scotland. HTMA has a strong communications programme, so the message is getting out there about what these programmes are delivering. And there's maybe one thing we have to be careful of is that the customer is going to expect to see fairly tangible improvements in how road services are delivered, and maybe even the condition of roads as well. But we've been quite clear in the review that in terms of exploring some of these options for improvement, it's about being more efficient, and yes, that hopefully will produce cash efficiencies. But we've been quite clear that in terms of maintenance backlog, that's at such a scale that you can be as efficient as you can. What we're trying to do is make best use of the funding that's available. That in itself won't necessarily bring new funding. So there is the challenge there about managing customer expectations. Really, it's about getting the message across that we're being as organisations, we're being as efficient as we can in delivering the service. But to recognise that there are still huge challenges in terms of the backlog that we have on the network. It's not necessarily going to address that, so we've got to manage that expectation.